I'm going to walk you through the process of how to create passwords using an algorithm. And I'm going to use these books as sort of an example. So instead of websites, I'm using books. So I've got the American Black Chamber here, and looking it over, I'm looking for certain aspects that every book will have, but may be different. So like maybe the title, maybe I start with the first letter of each word, or maybe I look inside and I look for something like the publisher or when it was made or something like that. So I'm looking for like specific information that I can find in all of these, but that will be different for each one, right? So each one will have a unique password depending on the name of the book or who it was written by or the publisher or those sorts of things, right? So that's what I'm looking for. So let's get some paper and go ahead and make one. So I have some paper, right? I'm gonna go ahead and first, I want my password to be fairly lengthy, but not too hard to remember. So I'm gonna create maybe some part that's consistent, a constant, throughout all of my passwords. And I don't have any ideas right now, so I'm actually gonna use that as my constant. So I'm gonna take the capital U and the first letter of the other letters, more or less. So I've got my U. And I want this to be a little bit longer than that, so I'm gonna actually spell out I, and then maybe use a number for no, and then the letter I guess. Okay, so this is my constant. It's going to be used across all my passwords to increase the length of the password. And now I'm going to look for things that I can take from each book, right? Each book will have these, but they're going to be different for each book depending on, the name of the book or the author or whatever. So for the American Black Chamber, let's see, what could I use? Maybe I use the first letter of each word in the book's name, right? That's a decent length, but maybe that's too obvious, right? So maybe I want like the second letter, right? So HMLH, and then what do I want to use? I still need more than that because that's, maybe I count the number of vowels, right? So that would throw in an extra number. So I'll write that down. And then what else do I want to use? Maybe I use the publication date. So this was published in 1931. So maybe I use 31. And maybe what else? Maybe I use the first letter of the color of the book cover. Now on a website, keep in mind that that might differ, right? So like on a website, they might change the background color periodically, so that might not be good. So now if I go to the next one, ETAR, and if I count the number of vowels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 again. And then let's look for the publication date. Okay, so here that is. Oh, this is a little bit older than I thought it was. So I write that down. And then once again, the cover color. I don't really like that it's well, they're both black, so what was I expecting? Alright, so now the next book, Processing for Visual Artists. So the R, the O, the I, and the R. And then number of vowels. Is this also 8? Oh, I left off the capital. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, that's a little better. And then I want to find the publication dates. Alright, so I'll write that down. And then also blue. Maybe the first letter of the color was a bad idea. Maybe I should have gone with like the last letter of the color name. I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea, right? So now let's try this one. So this is designed by numbers, although my camera's cutting it off, but that's okay. So E, Y, U, and then number of vowels. So 4, this one's quite a bit less. I could have included Y, but I decided not to count Y. That's not really a problem as long as you remember whether you're counting it or not, right? Because later if I were to forget, the password for this book, and I do 5, then obviously that won't work. and then the publication date, and the first letter of the color, so W. So these passwords will be this plus that for the first book, this plus that for the second book, this plus that for the third, this plus that for the fourth. Right, so now I have 4 unique passwords, and each one is a fairly good length. Even the shortest one is a decent length. Right, so let's see. So the shortest one is 13 characters. And then, let's see, we have 1 capital. I don't really like that. And we have 4 numbers. And no symbols. I don't really like that. So that's okay, but maybe I want to make it a little bit better. So what could I do? I think I'll turn this into a capital, so that adds an extra to capital. I think I'll hold shift when I'm typing the 0, which would make it a parenthesis, so that gives me a symbol. And then maybe I repeat the publication dates, but hold shift on all of these. So that would give me 2 additional symbols, and that would increase the number of characters for each one by 2, which of course means brute force is going to take a lot longer, right? So let's modify this. So now we have 3 numbers, 15 characters, we have 3 symbols, and we have an additional capital, so 2 capitals. Maybe still not amazing, but you can already see this is much better than, you know, some of the passwords that we've seen used in other places, right? So that's essentially the idea. Now at this point, I would still need to write the directions as an algorithm, right? Me just creating the examples are great, but for the project, I need to have the directions for my passwords written down, right? So that way, for grading purposes, right, I can see that you understand the concept, right? Now, I would still need to test these. So we've talked about some different ways to test our passwords. So you'll need to utilize some of those. And of course, you know, even after you do this, you know, look over the grading rubrics to make sure that you're scoring highly, right, on this. Because you don't want to put in all the work and then realize that you didn't score well because you weren't paying attention to the rubrics. So hopefully that helped you understand the idea, and then you just need to go over and you know, look at any specifics that maybe I didn't address here. And you know, of course, if you have questions, you're always welcome to ask. So hope that helps, guys, and if you need additional help, let me know.